What's up, guys? I'm Chris Spags here, back with another Four Corners video for today's 9-game MLB slate, courtesy of Awesemo.com. This is the first MLB Four Corners of the season. We're transitioning over from the Four Corners in the NBA. There are Four Corners in both sports, so we'll keep the same name, keep it simple for you guys. But right now, I need your support. This is the first one. I want to keep it going, want to start it strong. So like the video right now, leave a comment down below giving me your favorite one-off hitter on today's slate. There's a lot of guys around who are going to be in good one-off spots, also as part of a stack, I'm sure, but if you give me the best guess, you'll get a special shout out in tomorrow's video. So right now, like this video and leave a comment down below. The first corner I want to hit on is a game with the Indians visiting the Mariners. The Indians get 3.5 implied runs and the Mariners get 3.6 implied runs according to Las Vegas in their favor. Indians pitcher Trevor Bauer projects for 38% ownership on DK, 34% on Yahoo, and 26% on FanDuel, which makes him the highest owned pitcher on all sites. Bauer's strikeout rate, his swinging strike rate, and his chase rate, all three things we look at to determine a pitcher's effectiveness and also his ability to keep the ball away from batters. They all look good to start the year, so I don't have an issue going with Trevor Bauer and matching the field on his ownership. Trevor Bauer does look strong, but the Mariners have been pretty good versus lefties to start the year. The 235 ISO and a 131 WRC plus so far to start the year versus left-handed pitchers. I'm more inclined for one-offs against Bauer than I am stacks. Mitch Haniger with a 231 ISO, Edwin Encarnacion with a 243 ISO, and lefty Dan Vogelbach also know how to play here. He's been hitting pretty well versus lefties over the last year with a 320 ISO. Strong number here and a decent sample size, so I don't mind going to these guys. I prefer them as one-offs rather than a stack, but I think if you did stack against Trevor Bauer, it would be very low owned, and if somehow Bauer did blow up, you'd probably have a good chance of getting ahead of the field there. And Mariners pitcher Yusei Kikuchi isn't out of play for me either. The Indian side hitting really poorly to start the year, and with only 3.5 runs projected today for Cleveland, it's not a bad spot for Kikuchi. The Indians overall have a 32.1% K rate versus lefties to start the year. Kikuchi could benefit from that and just the fact that Cleveland is not able to hit the ball at all right now. The next corner I want to hit on is a game with the Angels visiting the Rangers. The Angels are implied for 5.4 runs according to Las Vegas, while the Rangers get 5.1 runs in this game in which the weather is creeping up to 77 degrees in Arlington today. Mike Trout has a possibility to return after missing a few days with an injury. I think the Vegas total here supports the idea of him being back. It's hard to imagine the Angels getting 5.4 runs supporting them in any spot without Trout, so I'd watch it closely, and obviously if Trout is in there, I would want a lot more of this lineup than it currently looks like with him out. But another reason the Angels may be in play even if Mike Trout isn't in the lineup is Shelby Miller. He's been terrible to start the year, 3.18 whip, 4.5% chase rate, also not much better. Versus the Angels without Trout, he might be due for some positive regression because they're just hitting 233 versus right-handed pitchers, and Shelby Miller just so bad where at some point you'd expect it to level out. With Trout in, the lineup gets a lot more appealing, but with Trout out, I wouldn't mind stacks of Cole Calhoun, Andrelton Simmons, and Justin Bour, but there's going to be a lot of ownership on those guys, and I really don't see the upside for them there, with this lineup just looking a lot worse without Trout in the lineup. Shin-Soo Choo, Elvis Andrus, Nomar Mazara, and Joey Gallo should be a popular four-man stack today. With Trevor Cahill on the other side, looks pretty competent to me with a 9.8 K per 9, and Texas with a 27.6% strikeout rate versus righties so far to start the year. It should be a positive hitting environment in Texas, but they feel a little bit overowned. Cahill also just allowing 23.3% hard contact to start the year. I like what Cahill's doing. I think the Rangers tend to be a little bit overowned because people are favoring that home ballpark, which is going to be more positive when the weather heats up, but at 77 degrees, you're not getting the full benefit there. So I don't mind looking a little bit more away from the Rangers, even though having some exposure because it is baseball, it seems fine as well. Next corner I want to hit on is a game with the Reds visiting the Dodgers. The Reds are implied for 3.3 runs, while the Dodgers are implied for 4.2 runs in this game in Los Angeles. The Clayton Kershaw interests me a little bit, but I think there is some concern here with him getting a quick hook. This is the first start of the year for him, and he's going against a Reds team with a 29.6% strikeout rate versus lefties to kick off the year. They also been mashing lefties with a 383 ISO and a 171 WRC plus, both of which are team highs on the slate. So they're due for some regression, but I think there is risk here for Kershaw in two directions. So I'm not going to have a ton of him, but I think a little bit of exposure works for me because that strikeout rate for the team overall pretty high. I think if you are going to go with a contrarian stack going against Kershaw, Eugenio Suarez going down to Jose Iglesias looks like a pretty interesting low-owned option. But overall, I think some exposure to Kershaw is fine. And I think having some Reds here, given the fact they have been hitting well and are going to be very low-owned, does seem like an option to go to here if you are mass multi-entering tournaments today. The Dodgers stack is always an option, but Luis Castillo gives me some pause on the other side. His 18.3% swinging strike rate and 0.57 whip are both tops on the slate to start the year here in 2019. Castillo has been historically worse versus lefties, so I don't mind one-offs like Cody Bellinger or some of the other Dodgers players with some pop. Pretty much every lefty in the lineup does have some pop. But overall, Castillo looks good enough here for me. It is a pitching park, so that should help him out a bit as well. Not a great team total supporting the Dodgers here, so Castillo not out of play. And the Dodgers stack a little bit less appealing than they may usually be. And since this is a 9-game slate, and there's just a lot of items to talk about, a lot of variance in baseball as well, I'm going to take you through a bunch of items here for my fourth corner today, in hopes of giving you guys a little bit more of a view on how I'm looking at things for today's slate. Aaron Nola is currently expected to be a high-owned option industry-wide, but I think there is some pause for me with going to him. He's got a 5.6% swinging strike rate to start the year, so he's not getting a lot of movement, not missing bats very well. I think that's a concern. And also the Mets are hitting pretty competently, so I'd rather pay up a little more, go to Noah Syndergaard on the other side, a guy who's been looking better across the board, hasn't gotten super lucky to start the year. Whereas Nola, I think there may be some concerns with how he's approaching things to start the year. He could certainly bounce back today, but the Mets hitting well enough that gives me pause. The Phillies also hitting pretty well, but I think Noah Syndergaard's stuff is a little better. I'm a little more willing to go there today than to go to Aaron Nola. Joey Lucchesi's ownership doesn't seem to be there quite enough, given the fact that he's got a 3-point run total supporting him versus Colorado. Colorado has a WRC plus of 41 to start the year versus lefties, which is really bad. Lucchesi's 10 strikeouts per 9 innings is right in line with his career numbers. Again, Colorado just hitting so poorly to start the year. They're not doing anything of note right now. If they're at home, maybe they're a better option, but on the road right now, they're not a spot you want to go to. So Lucchesi to me is going to be pretty interesting. He's certainly at a high price for what we're used to from him, but I don't mind him today. Chicago White Sox sacks seem pretty underowned to me right now, given the fact they have a 5.1 run total from Vegas supporting them, and a matchup versus Heath Fillmyer, who's allowing 18 hits per 9 and a 4% swinging strike rate in 2019, both of which are bad and very bad and amongst the lowest on today's slate. So I have no problem going to the White Sox here. I think they're going to be underowned, as I mentioned, and they have shown some pop recently as well, some tournament winning upside. And I also think a Brewers stack here is interesting. They have a 5.1 Vegas run total supporting them, with a Dakota Hudson going across. He's allowing a slate high 52.9% hard contact in 2019. The Brewers are better versus lefty pitchers than righties, but Hudson can get rocked here. They're in Brewer Park, which is a positive hitting environment, so I don't mind going to the Brewers here. And Dakota Hudson is the guy I really like to stack against, because I don't think he's that good of a player, at least right now with what we're seeing. So there we go. Those are my thoughts on this first MLB Four Corners video of the season. So like it right now, leave a comment down below giving me your guess to who's going to be the best one-off hitter on the slate. If you have the guy who has the best value or overall points return, I'll figure out which one I'm going with. You'll get a special shout out in tomorrow's video. So give me some support while we get this video going. Any feedback as well, because MLB is going to be a different approach than NBA. Either way, like the video right now and leave a comment down below. Use the promo code SWITCH and HEDGE to get half off your first month of any package at Awesemo.com. Get an MLB package, get all of Awesemo's ownership projections, as well as his actual projections. You can just plug right into Fancy Cruncher and start building lineups. Get his rankings as well. We also have the all sport packages, so you can keep getting NBA playoff, NHL playoff content, as well as PGA. Obviously a big weekend there with the Masters win for Tiger, NASCAR going on, MMA going on. So a bunch of different ways for you to approach things. Either way, though, use that promo code SWITCH and HEDGE to get half off your first month. I'll be back again tomorrow with another MLB Four Corners video, so good luck.